6 o'clock. We're going to begin. Normally our council meetings are at 5, but this evening, due to the fact that the Memorial Cup was here, we went to the Legion to pay respect and thank you to our one of Wyoming's own, Garrett Rutledge, coach with the Saginaw Spirit. So that's where we've been. We're running a little behind, but because we have a drainage meeting scheduled for 6 o'clock, I'm now going to turn it over to Councillor Van Claveren to continue with this drainage. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, good evening, everyone. We'll kind of call this meeting to order, please. I'm John Van Claveren, Chair of the Drainage Committee. A sincere welcome to those of you in chambers and anyone following along online. And it's always good to participate in what's happening in your community. We have one consideration meeting this evening. The purpose of this consideration meeting is to discuss the technical aspects of the drainage reports only. Your individual assessments or share of the overall can be discussed at the quarter revision for each drain at a future date. Allow me to set the tone for this meeting. This is a formal meeting subject to the standard rules of decorum. Please set phones on vibrate or turn off. At all times, the highest level of respect is given and expected. If you have a helpful comment or question, you're asked to raise your hand. Once addressed, state your name and address for the record. Please refrain from speaking out or having side conversations, as a rather sensitive microphone in the ceiling can't pick up on most dialogue. There will be a time for those that have asked to speak to be given the floor. You're encouraged to quickly and simply articulate your statement. It is shortly after 6, so we can get right into it here. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest at this time or a conflict that someone needs to declare? Now would be the time to do that, please. The purpose of this consideration meeting is to discuss the proposed works and technical aspects of the drainage report dated June 20th, 2024 for the Saul drain. If there are assessment concerns, these will be addressed at the quarter revision, and that will be scheduled for a later date. Allow me to introduce our council and staff that are present here tonight. Our Mayor Gary Atkinson, our Deputy Mayor Nettie McEwen, Councillors Bob Wolvette, Kristen Rodriguez, Mike Facey, and Alex Bojan. Our Drainage and Engineering Coordinator Elizabeth Cummings, our Drainage Clerk Jessica Wilson, our CAO Adam Sabansky, Deputy Clerk Ella Flynn is here. Our Director of Public Works, Paul Da Silva, is here also. And our engineer on the project is Josh Warner. Josh, Mr. Warner of our Dobbin Engineering will provide an update on the status of the engineer's report. The floor is yours, Josh.
Thank you. So through the chair, the Saul drain report has been prepared under Section 4 of the Drainage Act in order to replace an existing tile drain that was completed priorly and is in poor condition. The drain proposes 248 meters of HDPE pipe, 3 catch basins, and 2 road crossings. The Fisher Line crossing is proposed to be a steel casing installed by Jack and Bore, and the Egremont Road crossing is proposed to be an HDPE pipe completed by Open Cut. Total estimated cost for the work is $137,344. The report also includes a detailed breakdown of the allowances and assessments, provisions for maintenance, working areas, drawings, and construction specifications. At this time, I'm available for comments or questions from landowners or council.
Any questions from the floor? Any landowners have any questions specifically? Mr. Saul, please.
Do you mind if I step up here?
Oh, I'd love that. I prefer that actually.
Yeah. So Josh, hate to do this, but feel like I'm gonna kind of go backwards here a little bit. I want to explain this began with Elizabeth coming out to meet me on site to ask, could we extend our drain down the Egremont Road, down the road allowance of the Egremont Road to outlet down into the same drain that it goes now, so that we wouldn't affect other landowners if we didn't need to. And Elizabeth very efficiently explained to me that no, you can't have a private drain on a road allowance. And since then, we've had a little bit of dialogue and that we could have a municipal drain on a road allowance. And I think that kind of got lost on me in translation because all I heard was no. So we've done the engineer's report and the survey to determine, and you know, I'm aware there's some landowners that don't feel it's necessary and we prefer it didn't affect them. I'm not here to force anything on anyone that they don't want or feel that they would benefit from. My original request was to improve our outlet, and now having Elizabeth come out and see the drain, which the municipality was unaware of for all these years. There's catch basins in the ditch taking road water. So the currently as it sits, only myself, my farm, bought from Terry Symington, and again, Terry Symington and Jim Symington, and likely my father was the fellow that installed that drain privately on 2 road allowances 50 years ago. Catch basins were installed to improve drainage. No funding was provided from the municipality. Otherwise, it would have been made a municipal drain. So before we get too far down a rabbit hole, I just want to ask, is it possible to look at this again in a different light without forcing something on the neighbors that they don't wish to participate in?
Josh
Yeah,
or
so-
Elizabeth, someone-
So through the chair, certainly that's an option. That'll be at council's discretion. Just a few points I do want to make in regards to that. Basically, at the site meeting, we had talked about following the existing alignment of the drain. At the time, we didn't know exactly where that was. So after the meeting, we had talked to an adjacent landowner, Terry, about the drain, and he mentioned that it basically heads northerly, so in the location that we have shown here now. I believe the option that we have proposed is the best for the area. There's a few issues that we're looking to address. There's a petition from the Sauls is one. 2 would be the petition from the Duels, who came at a later date, but basically they have surface water in the area that they're looking to resolve. So that's the reason for catch basin number 1. And then the third being the crossing across Fisher Line. That's a private crossing and then goes again across another a property. Basically incorporating those as part of a drainage works allows legal outlet for all 3 parties with the proposed solution.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
At considerable cost as opposed to a municipal drain to only service Township Road and my farm. It would be a significant cost savings. So again, I don't want to be perceived as forcing something onto someone that they don't want. We clearly understand the benefit of having a proper outlet across 2 roadways. And if it was to fail, it would be at a significant disadvantage for myself. That's what initiated this whole thing. So that's all I wanted to say, just to make that clear of how we got here and possible resolution.
Jim, thank you. Can you folks speak to policy and what's appropriate and what's not, as far as, you know, how can we access previous private drain, and how you decide when that is even feasible? I'm not sure exactly what I'm asking, but I was hoping you'd go with me on that. So As Jim was mentioning, there was some drains put in back in the, about 50 years ago. And he's trying to bridge the gap between he's prepared to invest in, but he'd rather be sensitive to the neighbors. Is there other alternatives that we can consider there?
Yeah, so through the chair, there is other routes we can consider, like Jim said, going along the roadside, the south roadside of Egremont Road, directly to the McDonald Giltley drain. There may be some cost savings there. It wasn't investigated as part of the works. It was just follow the existing alignment and solve the three issues, in my opinion, in the area. If we do look at that other route, we would have to investigate the Egremont Road crossing. That may be potentially undersized now that we're rerouting a drainage area to a new one. So that'll be something that we would have to consider.
I know online with us, Amy Simonton, I think you expressed an interest maybe to speak. You did send a letter to council, appreciated that. Did you have something further to add? Can you hear us, Amy? Might not be the best
Okay.
there.
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Very well. Barely hear you. Try again, Amy.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
No.
Yes, yes.
No, I don't think you can hear me.
We can hear you. Can you hear us? We can hear you. We can hear you, Amy.
Ms. Shillington, can you turn off your camera? It tends to work better if you don't have the video going at the same time as the voice. Symington's right.
He's obviously not hearing us.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yay. Okay, amazing. Sorry. Thank you for that. I'm just in the midst of traveling to Southwestern Ontario right now. Unfortunately, not in time to get to the meeting in person, so my apologies. Yeah, I had a few questions that I had sent and shared with Josh, and then I submitted those obviously to council. I don't have what were the concerns that I submitted, or I can just leave them as is.
Okay, Amy, maybe I'll see if Josh can speak to Amy's letter and the thought she had there.
Yeah, there was a, through the chair, there was 4 questions, so council does have the questions, yeah, okay.
Yeah, awesome.
So yeah, the first question addressed the Sol property, low area and similar fields, do retain water, in a similar nature. And yeah, I would agree that the property south of base number 3, so the Sol property, is a lower area. And I believe that's, the result of the petition, in addition to providing a sufficient outlet for the tire water, is my understanding. Yeah, and then there was an assessment concern. I don't know if you heard at the beginning, Amy, that we can look at that as part of the quarter revision if the proposed report gets adopted. And then in regards to the trees within the adjacent water courses, I agree that the surrounding channels do have trees and brush in the water course, but I don't believe it's affecting the existing private drain. There's significant grade along the private drain that if there was a buildup of water or trees affecting the outlet, it wouldn't impede the flow all the way to Egremont Road. And then in terms of the disruption of crops, so under the drainage report, there's allowances given under section 29 and 30 for section 29 is for a right of way. And then section 30 is for crop loss. So we pay a full rate for crop loss in the first year, so that typically the construction year, and then a half rate applied to the second year, assuming that the crop production is not back to normal.
Okay, thank you so much, Josh. I guess, yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say so I guess my only concern in this is for my cousin Kevin, who and he planted hay last season. And so he would have to reseed. And so it wouldn't just be as you were mentioning, it would just be this year, this project, subsequent 3 years. So that would be my only concern is next few years.
Be able to decipher that, Josh?
A little bit, yeah, certainly it's at the allowance discretion of council, so that can be revised at this meeting, if council decides.
Okay. Did you hear that, Amy?
Okay, great, thanks. I did, thank you. I did, thank you.
Okay. Is any of our council have any questions? Alex, any thoughts or?
So I know Mr. Warner mentioned that there's a second petition part of this. So even if we, what Mr. Saul mentioned, if we look at doing that avenue, is there still, so let's say we did decide to go that direction and you went back to look at that option, does that second submission still cause, what will that do? Will be a separate one at that point?
It may not be a separate project. We'd have to look at whether the property owners would still want to continue with the petition, and then there would be two options. We still head north with their petition, or we head south to the Saul's Basin at the north part of their property, and then head west along the proposed new route. So there would likely still be some incorporation on the Symington property if they proceeded with that petition as well.
That's that for now, John. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Counselor Vasey, any thoughts or questions?
Yeah, going to the other drain down the side of the road saves us a crossing, then it obviously will save us a bunch of money.
Crossings?
Like I say, you'll have to check to see if the outlet is big enough to take it and all that kind of stuff, but it makes sense to explore it to me.
Counselor Rodriguez?
I guess, Mr. Saul's concerns that brought the different options were that the Symingtons weren't interested in taking on this big expense due to something that's needed for the Saul property. And I'm not quite clear from the Symingtons if that's the case. They almost sounded like they were maybe on the fence one way or the other. Like I just don't know how much it's benefiting the Symingtons and whether the Symingtons are okay in the end with the proposal. And
Yeah.
if they're not. Sorry,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Please go ahead,
That's okay.
Amy.
Yeah, if you can hear me, so sorry, it keeps breaking out. If it were of great benefit to our property, then we would be interested in investing it. However, just with talks with Kevin, who I trust immensely, knows our property as well as my dad did, and he indicates that he doesn't believe it to be of any benefit. And so that's kind of where we fall in terms of our opinion, and we were just a little bit concerned about the benefit percentage and breakdown was 40% for the property that I owned prior to my dad's death, and now I obviously own his property as well. So it would be a significant cost for something that someone who I trust has indicated to me that wouldn't be a ton of benefit. I hope that's clear and hope you could hear me.
Yes, loud and clear, Amy. Is that good? CEO Szymanski.
Thank you. I see that the Symington property appears to have been tiled within the last 15 years. Do those tile outlets utilize the existing private drain? Because if they do, that could be a future problem, because if that drain fails and it's still a private drain, you wouldn't necessarily be able to just carry out maintenance on it. You'd have to go through this whole process to incorporate or rebuild that section under the Drainage Act. So if you're doing that and just servicing the Simonton property, you would be bearing more of the cost of going under Fisher Line than you would be if you were partnering with your surrounding property owners. So there is future considerations and benefits to the property. Yes, there might be some short-term pain, but if your tiles are tied into that private drain and it remains private, you could put yourself at risk in the future if that crossing stops working. Because we'd be back here for fairly much the same design.
Through your chair, just a point of clarification, the property is tiled to the private drain.
Did you want to speak to that, Amy? Is that,
Yeah, I just said duly noted. I didn't realize that it was a private drain. And I have no idea what the state, maybe Josh can speak to this, what the state of the private drain is currently. And if that would be something that would potentially be problematic in like the very near future.
Yep. So again, through the chair, so this drain is in poor condition. I'm not sure exactly through the Symington property, but I know that the town has done a few repairs within the road allowance on Egremont. And has found it to be in poor condition.
Could you describe poor working condition? What does that mean exactly?
Through the.
Elizabeth?
We
Yes, please.
had to do a couple of repairs. I think one of them was related to, excuse me, one of them was related to utilities in the area, which wouldn't necessarily be the same, especially through your private property. But yeah, the drain is generally quite old and not in good shape. I don't know if Kevin may know better whether he's had to do any repairs on your private property. As to Fisher Line, we have not done any repairs there, and I don't know what the status is of it, so.
Thank you so much. I will check in with, oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I will check in with Kevin, who knows the state of the drain or if he has any input on that. And then I can get back to you.
Fair enough. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, do you have any thoughts or questions?
I think probably what is Mr. Saul's brought forward is worth considering. And maybe I hate to say, but maybe defer this back to take a look and see what the other options are before we go forward with it.
Mr. Nancy?
I think that'd be a great idea because I think the Symingtons will also want to investigate the condition of that outlet. Because as mentioned, if we do go down Egremont Road with the drain, it leaves them to manage that outlet more by themselves. And it may be advantageous to keep it as a communal outlet instead of individual outlets.
Okay, very good. Deputy Mayor McEwen?
The mayor.
Agreeable, thank you.
Yes, for change.
Yes. Mr. Wolbett?
Well, same thing in the, Mr. Saul brought new information here tonight, so it kind of complicates it a little bit here, and obviously you can hear the conversation, so we're not ready to approve anything here. It needs to go back to the drawing boards and find out what is the best option. And that's what I see in it anyways. You gotta go back to the drawing boards. It's see who you're gonna please and who you're not. It's about the drainage part of it, not who you're gonna please. If it's municipal, it'll be, everybody will have to contribute. Simple as that. But yeah, our position here is to get it right. And I just don't think we're there on this one yet. I heard anyways.
Thank you, Counselor. Okay. Well, allow me to read a motion. Yes. Oh, sir, of course.
Sorry, my name's Brian Dowell. I'm one of the property owners affected.
Yes, Brian.
To go back to the drawing board, it does make sense. I'm listening to everything. I understand that concept, but can you give us an idea what the time frame might be to restart and start over? Because it's our property that's flooding as a consequence of the drain overflowing. And so not really interested in this going like 2 years to try to decide what we're going to do.
Sure, sure,
Can you give me an idea of how long it might take to start this whole process over again?
sure. Josh, can you speak to that?
Yeah, again, through the chair, it wouldn't be starting this whole process over again. We'd just be investigating another option. probably a month to 2 months and month. And then we'd have an idea of the costs and the implications to the surrounding properties.
It's reasonable. Mr. Warner, correct me if I'm wrong too. I think probably first priority would be to determine whether or not the Symingtons actually need the drain or not. Because then that might leave your existing design in place if they do want it.
Yeah, that'd be correct, yep.
Any further comments from the gallery here? Yes, Mr. Saul.
John, I have one for Mr. Dool, if I could, because I haven't walked the neighbor's property. Is the drain, is that tile drain blown out open on the hill down past your property?
On the, I don't have my drawing open right now. I think it's the one that's on the north side. Am I correct, Josh? The north side of Egremont? That's the one that's at the corner of my property, correct?
Yes.
When we get sufficient rain, that drain overflows and, yeah, crosses the front of my property and inundates a shed.
So again, there may also simply be some maintenance to be done, and again, it's a private drain. But the landowner has the right to maintain. They're just currently, there's a couple, 3 different landowners now than there was previously. But if it's, you know, the term blowout on a tile open on your property or even Amy's property right next to yours, it should be addressed and simply at the landowner's cost. And that might solve your current problem. My problem isn't with the municipality and the catch basins and the road water, is entirely different problem that is causing your problem.
Yeah, so through the chairs, so the tile being on the Symington properties, the Dowells are able to maintain and repair that drain. By themselves, right? So I mean, it's on the Symington property, so they'd be responsible for maintaining it if they wish.
Yes, Elizabeth.
If I may, I'm not sure that there is a problem with it or it's just undersized for today's storm events, because what Brian has indicated to me is it's during heavy events, the catch basins can't keep up. So perhaps there is a restriction on the Symington lands, I don't know, but not that we're particularly aware of. I think it's just that it's not sized for today's standards and it can't keep up. And then it spills out and it goes on to the Dool's property, which is why they signed the petition to have improvements that would affect them. So.
Right. Mr. Burnley, please.
This water that's going through your property, is that the road water coming through the ditch? Or is it coming up through the tile?
Through the catch basin.
Through it or going down the side of the road?
It's coming up out of the catch
Coming up
basin.
out of the
And
catch
then
basin.
I'm lower, so.
Yeah.
So
As it floods that general area, it eventually heads.
so if
across.
they cut it off, you got to run down the north or the south side of the road, shouldn't affect you then. Cut off the flow of water. That picture you showed me, that's a lot of water. That's
It's a lot of water.
more than an 8-inch tile run.
Well, it's a little river.
That's gotta be coming down the side of the road too.
Well, I mean, there is a
There's
ditch
a road
there. I don't
off,
wanna
but-
say something I'm not knowledgeable on, and I don't know everything that, all the water that's going in there, but there's a ditch on both sides of
Yeah.
Egremont. So I would say naturally there is flow towards that catch basin, but my understanding it was also coming from the other side of the road. And so, you know, you can't tell whose water it is, but it's all going into that one spot.
Yeah, well, I'm just wondering where it's coming from.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water.
Well, it seems clear, and unless you have something else to add, that seems clear that I'll read this motion in regards to sending it back to our engineer to do a bit more work and come back with something a little different. This has been moved by Councillor Vacy and seconded by Councillor Bojan, that the report by Mr. Josh Warner on behalf of our Dobbin Engineering dated June 20th, 2024 regarding the Saul drain be referred back to the engineer for design revisions. All in favor? Carried. Motion moved by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vacy, that the consideration meeting for the Saul drain be adjourned. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much to our residents. Thank you, Amy, online, and you can hang out for a spell or you can feel free to exit. Wouldn't believe me either way.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. This meeting will be streamed live and recorded for public viewing on the town's YouTube page. This evening, good evening, council, good evening, staff, and for those that have joined with us in person, as well as those joining us virtually. For those here in the council chamber, I'd ask you to please put your communication devices on vibrate. Shut them off, please. We acknowledge that this land on which we are gathered today is part of the ancestral land of the Chippewa, the Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, referred to collectively as the Anishinaabe. It is through the connection of the Anishinaabe with the spirit of the land, the water, and air that we recognize their unique cultures, traditions, and values. Together as treaty people, we have a shared responsibility to act with respect for the environment that sustains all of life, protecting the future for those generations to come. Council, I would ask you if you have a pecuniary interest to please declare it at the appropriate time. Do we have any delegations this evening? Okay, thank you. Council, let's go to item 5.1 on your agenda. I have a motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, that the report prepared by Adam Sabansky, Chief Administrative Officer, dated June the 24th, 2024, regarding the future use of Old Plympton Township Hall Public Consultation Plan be received, and the council directs staff to carry out the consultation plan as presented. Thank you, Mr. Sabansky, for your report. Is there anything to add to that before I go to council?
Nothing to add, your worship.
Okay. Council, any questions for this one? Okay, Councilor Vacy.
Let's start or?
Yeah.
Okay, Deputy.
Do we have to go through the consultation plan?
So
Like
as
that's what you're saying in this motion, isn't it?
through your worship, if I may. So in reviewing the previous council minutes, the direction to carry out consultation plan came through council direction, not a motion. Therefore, council as a whole can direct staff not to carry forward with public consultation and to carry out in a different direction if they see fit. As it wasn't a motion, it does not require a reconsideration motion. It just requires alternative direction if this is no longer the choice you would like to go.
Okay, well, I would like to suggest. But this motion needs to be voted on first, correct? If I want to suggest something else.
I think, yes, that is the motion that's on the floor. So before you put another motion on the floor,
But-
you should defeat this motion.
I know, but in order for people to defeat the motion, we might want to hear what the suggestion is, the next suggestion is.
And that's absolutely can be discussed.
So can I say that now? Oh, well, I'm going to, if this is defeated, then I will put forth a motion to declare the property surplus and go forward with the process for the disposition through public tender. I might want to add that, you know, this place to restore it, it's going to cost $448,000 plus. To demolish it, it's going to be $150,000 plus. Selling it will be 6,200 something. So it plus, while it stands there, while we decide what we're doing, it's costing us something like close to 5,000 every year. Last year was only 3,449, but it's close enough. So I really would like to put that motion forward, but then we have to vote on this one first.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy. So another hand up over here was Councilor Wovet.
This has been a topic we've been kicking around now for quite some time. I'll just comment on the pathology report on this. In my opinion, it was at the time and it still is now. A very incomplete report, in my opinion. Mainly, the reason I say that is number one, they didn't get up in the attic to have a look at anything there. They didn't get underneath the place to look at anything there. Nothing more important than the foundation of any building. That's one of the most important things that you can do, is have a decent foundation. The cost of this thing was $500,000. That's back in 2022. So I'd assume you can just tack on 10 to 30%. Things have changed. Costs have gone up, and contractors, construction, you name it, gone up. So, and the whole, on this pathology report, you look at the whole thing and the way that building's built and all the old wood, the old barn board, and what's underneath that, you have no idea what you're getting into. No idea. I've been around old buildings all my life. But that's why I finally bought a new one. But I do believe that there may be somebody out there that would want a piece of, say the word heritage, because it's never been declared that, but maybe somebody wants to preserve it, spend the money on it. I just don't think the town, is equipped to go after that kind of things. So I would support putting it up for sale and see if there is anybody out there with some kind of interest. Give it a time period, because it probably is going downhill. I don't know how much it's inspected on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, but things tend to sit like that in an empty building. Yeah. So other than that, I don't know what to say about it, but I think there's some pretty passionate people out there in the community about that building. And so I think we got to really be real careful here to make the right decision and offer it up if there is somebody interested that may very well want to fix it up. I don't know what else to say about it, to be honest with you.
Shabansky.
I'd just like the opportunity to clarify the cost estimates. So staff did go through the numbers previously provided and updated them based on current inflation rates. So the values presented in the report are as reflective as current costs as we can get.
Councilor Van Clever, anything?
I would just say, I agree with my fellow councillors, and we need to stop the bleeding. And if there's somebody interested, yes, they could step up and purchase. Great.
Thank you. Councilor Vacy, back to you. Sorry.
Yes, I agree 100% with the left wingers over there that this building is never preserved historically. So by the look of the picture, it's right out of that 70s show. There's nothing but the shape of it left historically. And to spend money on it, even to do, another $2,000 to do the public consultation to find out that we're not going to rebuild it for $500,000. And if we do, there's still no place to park out there. Like it makes it's in the middle of nowhere. No one's going to travel to come look at it. it's gonna be another building that we own, maintain, and don't make enough rent to even to cover the costs of the monthly bills on it. So I think we cut the loss and put it up for sale, and hopefully somebody can use it, because we certainly can.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez, anything from you?
Thank you. I mean, the square footage of this building. What is it? What is it, about 1,000 square feet, 1,500? I mean, I find it absolutely ridiculous that it's gonna cost $500,000 to fix that building. Like, that's insane. First off. I don't know where that number comes from, but secondly, I agree that sell it. And if somebody is very interested in preserving it or investing in it, maybe going over to the museum over there where some other cabins are, you know, power to them, right? And because history is important, if it feel that deeply about it, part I say, but definitely I don't think the whole process just.
Mr. Shabansky.
So I'd like to, again, draw council's attention to the cost estimates. So the first 5 lines on their restoration, those estimates were actually provided by this. They're experts in historical building restoration. AODA, if we're gonna continue to maintain the facility as a public facility, you would have to do AODA improvements, which would include a ramp and replacing one of the doors to meet the proper widths and to have an opener on it. There would have to be electrical improvements. The foundation was identified by our engineers during our facility evaluations back in 2002 as requiring repair or replacement. So that's where those additional costs come from. So it's just not a simple restoration of a building. There's notable works that are included in that, including environmental works such as abandoning the existing wastewater system and installing a vault chamber washroom in that area. So it's very much beyond a building restoration to maintain it for public use as suggested in option 1.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shabansky. Councilor Bojan, anything from you?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have anything too much to add to that. I just go back to every year budget, we're trying to spend the right amount of money on the right things at the right time. And 500,000 is 5% tax levy. If it was done in 1 year, I know it says there would be over 3 years, whatever it was, but I mean, it's of the other opinion, I think it would be over budget. I think every project goes over budget, especially when you're talking about historical restoration. So, I mean, I have no problem going to the public and asking for their opinion. But when it comes down to it, are you okay with a raised property tax increase to pay for this $500,000 to $600,000 restoration? I don't know if we're going to get that public support. And there's no harm in seeing what happens if we go that route of a sale. But I fully understand the historical attachment to a building like this, and that's not lost on me.
Okay. So the way I have it, the motion was by Councilor Bojan, second by Councilor Rodriguez. Report prepared by M. Sabansky, CAO, dated June 24th, regarding the future use of the old Plympton Township Hall be received public consultation plan be received, and that council direct staff to carry out the consultation plan as presented. So just so we're all clear, if you do not vote yes, then it's defeated. And just so we're all clear. Okay, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? That motion is defeated. A motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the old Plympton Township Hall, known municipally as 4496 Egremont Road, be declared surplus to the needs of the municipality, and the staff be directed to proceed with the process disposition of the surplus lands by public tender. Those in favor? Carried. Council will go to item 6.1. The motion by Counselor Basie, seconded by Counselor Rodriguez, that the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions of council remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would include your special council meeting minutes of June the 20th, 2024, our closed special council meeting minutes of June 20th, 2024, our planning council meeting minutes of June 24th, 2024, our closed planning council meeting minutes of June 24th, 2024, and our planning public meeting minutes of June 24th, 2024, which includes the zoning bylaw amendment 59 of 2024, 3771 Queen, the zoning bylaw amendment 60 of 2024 of 5706 Lakeshore Road, official plan amendment 56, regular council meeting minutes of June the 26th, 2024, and our closed regular council meeting minutes of June 26th, 2024. Council, you've had an opportunity to review all of them. Are there any questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, council, let's go to item 6.2. I have a motion by Councillor Wolbet, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren. That the minutes be adopted by council and those confidential minutes of the closed sessions remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. That would be the Environmental Service Committee meeting minutes of April the 4th, 2024 and May the 2nd, 2024. We have Councillor Bojan who chairs that committee if there are any questions. Hearing none, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Council, let's go to 6.3. Deputy.
Thank you. Mr. Van Claveren, have you been doing anything this past week?
Sure, why wouldn't I? I can report that this Thursday past, I attended a meeting with the Lambton County Historical Society where we met at the Lambton Heritage Museum in Lambton Shores. Have you been there recently?
Recently, no.
Wow, it is very impressive, state of the art, a lot of really cool improvements, kind of a world-class museum. It really is, and you have some great curators there. It was just a really cool meeting, and Canatera Log Cabin, as you mentioned, they're starting to work on that. They got the foundation in and starting to lay down some logs, and yeah, so very worth the visit if you're got some free time.
Good.
That's what
Yes.
I have to report. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Wolbet?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I can report that last Thursday, we had the Kids Safety Day in Elphinstone for farm safety. We had over 200 kids there. We had 13 different safety stations from OPP and ATVs to tractor safety, all kinds of different things. So that was a very successful day. I'm not sure where it's going to be next year, but I certainly would propose Wyoming. And on Saturday, my wife and I attended the Corvette show in Bayfield and had breakfast at the fire hall, which was very good breakfast. And I didn't buy another vet, but it was a good day.
Did the breakfast compare to bacon burgers here?
Oh, no, bacon burgers is much better. That's all I have.
Yeah, good, thank you. Mr. Belgian?
Thank you. I just have, from the events committee side, obviously everyone knows the Canada Day event got canceled. So they had to make that call the day before, in order to be able to save all the money that they invested in all the activities and performances. So the good news is even though that event got canceled, all that stuff can be reallocated to another event. So the next event is July 20th, so next Saturday, at the fairgrounds. It's a community safety day. So we'll be bringing that, hula hoop and magic show performance that was booked for Canada Day. That'll now be at this event, as well as the Ride with Pride bike rodeo is part of that event. It's kind of a package deal. And then There'll be an Auto X demonstration by the fire department, so and a bunch of safety booths, so it'll be a good day, on Saturday, July 20th.
So all was not lost.
All was not lost, yeah. It ended up being a nice day on Canada Day.
Yeah.
The ground was awfully soggy, so I don't think it would have worked anyway.
Mr. Vazy.
Thank you. I've got a note here that it was a good call on Canada Day to cancel it, because being one of the vendors for it, right, it would have just been a waste of money and say a sloppy mess, so. Even though nobody liked it and we all wanted to have it, we don't control the weather. We know Parks and Rec this month. And I didn't get a chance, but I would like, if we could get another update on usage of the boat ramp since our last meeting and over the long weekend. Hopefully we see some improvement there. And just a heads up that starting Saturday, I am gone for a week till the 21st. Going out of the country.
Far?
So you might have to shut the town down. I don't know how.
We'll try and get along without you. Okay,
Try and get along without me.
thank you. Ms. Rodriguez.
Yes, thank you. Well, I had the St. Clair Conservation Authority bus trip. Really nice coach bus. We had breakfast, there was a coach bus, and then we had lunch. It was awesome. Like, it was like all out.
I know, but can I interrupt for a minute? I think that bus trip, rest of council usually gets invited. I didn't see any kind of invitation go out on that at all.
Well, I had no idea because I didn't see anybody else's council present. You wouldn't have fit on the
We
bus.
always go on their bus trip. We learn so much about Platte County on it. We have a nice lunch. That's really something.
Well, just so you know, the lunch was from Burns again, so I'm pretty sure the mayor wasn't missing out. So we mostly stayed in the St. Clair Township. The chair, Pat Brown's territory, yeah. He was so excited. But we had several speakers. They had a nice full speaker system, the whole 9 yards. Did the tour of the shorelines and all the improvements made through those programs offered by the St. which I'll talk about. And all the work they've done down there. And then we did, of course, the McHugh Dam, which I learned a ton. It's the largest water diversion system in North America. So it's not actually a dam per se, it's a water diversion system. So it was really cool to learn about that, although there are some infrastructure problems showing now. So they've got like these, like when you get a bite and you put a red circle around it, like a mark. That's what they're doing on the infrastructure now. See if those cracks get bigger so yeah, so that's going on. And then we visited Green Hill Gardens. Have you guys heard of this? Oh, wow, phenomenal. It is in Wilkesport, in the middle of nowhere. And it is an 8-acre parcel of land with no home on it. The Robsons bought it, particularly Joy Robson. Her husband was a hunter, trapper, and businessman and yin farmer. And so her hobby was this, making this fully landscape 8-acre parcel of land. It's got wetlands on it. It's got ponds. It's got waterfalls. It is amazing, absolutely amazing. But right now, the St. Clair Conservation Foundation was gifted it from the Wilsons upon their passing. And that took place about a year ago. And they're quickly understanding how expensive it is to have full-time employees constantly manicuring this 8-acre parcel. And so I suggest everybody get out there and get a really good look at it and enjoy it, because it's not going to be at the same level in a couple of years from now or sooner, because they are going to curtail it because it's just too expensive to keep up, and they're going to bring it back to more of natural. But I got lots of pictures of bullfrogs, of turtles, of all kinds of stuff. It was on.
Yeah.
And then that's where we finished our tour, and all the expropriated farmland that floods every time the dam be used and all that kind of stuff, but wonderful day.
Good.
Lots of fun.
Thanks for letting us know what we miss. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Nothing is, no bus trip like that, but
No, yeah, it was awesome.
well, Deputy, I had the opportunity to attend the SLEP Annual General Meeting in Point Edward. And I want to also shout out congratulations to the committee that made the decision to postpone Canada Day and cancel those events. That was a good call. And this past weekend, I had the opportunity to attend the 65th wedding anniversary of Carl and Catherine Dewhurst over at the Legion. They were most appreciative of that visit, and it's a good event.
65 years. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's remarkable, isn't it? It's, for sure. So that's all that I have. What about you, Deputy?
So I, nothing to report because I wasn't invited on anything. Anyway. I don't have anything to report.
Just wondered if Councilor Rodriguez got any bling out of the road trip.
No,
No?
no, we did not. Very entertaining though.
Well, you were in St. Clair.
Yeah, well, it was counselors from all over.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. All right, let's go to 8 on our item on our agenda, 8.1. I have a. Sorry, I missed one. Counts 7 point. Motion by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Bojan, that council remuneration claims for June of 2024 be approved for payment. Any questions on that, council? All those in favor? Great. Okay, now we'll go to 8.1. I have a motion by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Deputy Mayor McEwen, that the report prepared by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated June the 28th, 2024, regarding the Whiting Drain tender be received, and that the tender from JLH Excavating Incorporated for $64,387.40, including HST, be accepted. That bylaw 92 of 2024 be approved and taken as having been read 3 times. The mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Ms. Cummings is with us. Is there any questions on that report? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, can you just give me a Reader's Digest version of what exactly this is gonna do?
Yeah, yep. Yes, I can. That is the road crossing on Egremont Road. So there'll be catch basins installed and road culvert. And there is a new outlet pipe going on the old Whiting drain that is still existing. And some tile repairs. There's some blockages just north of Egremont Road.
Okay, that's going up to O'Brien. Going that far?
No, the Whiting drain just crosses Egremont Road, goes across some private lands and outlets into Lake Huron.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all.
Any further questions? All for the vote. All those in favor? Great. Okay, 8.2. I have a motion by Councilor Bojan, second by Councilor Rodriguez. The report by Elizabeth Cummings, Drainage and Engineering Coordinator, dated June the 28th, 2024, regarding requests for drain maintenance for the period of April the 1st, 2024 to June the 30th, 2024 be received and for information and filed accordingly. Any questions for Ms. Cummings? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 8.3, council. Moved by Councilor Van Claveren, seconded by Councilor Wolvette, that the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated June the 25th, 2024, regarding video surveillance policy for the town of Plympton-Wyoming be received, and the council adopt policy number 72, video surveillance policy. Mr. De Silva, you are here with us this evening. Is there anything to add to your report?
Just that this was reviewed by the Parks and Rec Committee and they had one minor amendment that was suggested that we retain everything for 5 days. So we included that in the updated policy.
Sadly, this is the way society is going anymore, isn't it? Yeah, any questions? Councilor Wobet?
I guess my question would be, 5 days is not very long. You know, something happened by the time you get it, you know how things go, wheels turn a little bit slow in the municipal world. And probably even slower in the OPP world to get them down to investigate, so 5 days is pretty short.
Mr. De Silva?
Yeah, through your worship. Originally, it was 3 days. And then with the conversation that we had at the committee, we decided with long weekends and stuff like that, that a few extra days would be good, because if something were to happen, for example, if something were to happen at the washroom across the road, that would come to our attention fairly quickly and we could pull that video at that time. So it's just 5 days to be overwritten. And we feel like 5 days is enough that we would identify the problem and be able to pull that video and provide it to the OPP.
Okay, so you're gonna review it within the 5 days, and if there's a problem, you keep it and hand it over to the OPP.
Exactly.
Okay, that's fair.
Councilor Vacy?
Yeah, we discussed that at Parks and Rec, and it basically, it almost gives you 9 days, because it's just overwriting the oldest one. So by the time we say, well, this one will be an easy one, but if we end up going out to Lamrecton and those places eventually, yeah, it might take an extra couple days, but it should still be there. And across the streets cost us $6,000-7,000 in repairs on the lock every time the kids boot the door in, so sure that all stemmed from.
Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. Well, first, to start off on the subject of your 5-day retention period, I would agree that it is unusually short. There's many reasons why more than 5 days would play out the necessity. Highly unusual, and I'm not sure what the concern is, keeping it longer than 5 days. And why, like, what is the concern there to start with? When you have limited, everything else in your proposed bylaw limits the ability of who's looking this to start with. So I'm just not sure what the concern is.
Mr. Silva?
Through your worship, this was essentially, borrowed from other municipalities and they had similar retention periods. And it could be a matter of storage as well, depending on what kind of system we go with. Storage might cost a few extra dollars, so we just thought 5 days was reasonable. However, if council wants to amend that, we're more than happy to.
I just think I think you'll find it's going to be problematic. My other in the proposed bylaw, there's no mention regarding audio recording. Most cameras audio recording, and under the laws and legislation, you can't do audio recording. It's not specified in here about excluding audio.
Mr. De Silva?
Through your worship, we only intend on doing video recording. So we can remove, or there's a few instances there where I think it says video/audio. We could certainly remove the audio portion of that and make it clear that we have no intention on recording any audio at all.
Yeah, I think maybe just a statement in there to add that there will be absolutely audio recording. And to that, I also think it's important because when you go to a purchasing stage, you want to make sure gives you that information to make sure that you're purchasing something that you have the ability to turn off the audio. In some cameras, you won't be able to do that. So I think that's why it's important to kind of point it out. And then when it comes to you want to make sure you're only utilizing this for public purposes. And quite often when these cameras are in public settings, sometimes they can be picking up private properties because the way they have to be mounted and what they're looking at. And so I think another consideration there is making sure that you're choosing analytical technology where it's much better to rid of those sections of the camera to make sure that you aren't inadvertently, it's very easy through that digital technology. So I think that's an important consideration. And then something minor, your use of the signage about digital recording. I think that should just say video surveillance, and because video gives the public an automatic knowledge that it's video and not necessarily audio video. And that would be it for my comment.
Councillor Bojan, anything from you?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay. With those things under consideration. Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Yes, that's probably a good idea, Clerk. Yeah.
Are the mover and seconder okay that we add as amended for
Monitors.
the changes?
So to clarify, we never determined a time, length of time we wanted held for. We noted that Councilor Rodriguez noted that 5 days may not be long enough. And we noted that we'd like audio removed from the policy, so the audio one is clear. Council seemed to be agreeable to that. However, we did not seem to have any consensus on the length of time to hold.
Mr. Mayor, is that something we can amend later? If 5 days seems to be an issue?
It is a policy, so it's not as if it can't be amended easily. It's not a bylaw where you'd have to bring a whole new bylaw back. It is a policy.
Okay.
So we can always look at that and amend it based on number of options we can get when it comes to the service provider, because I'm sure the more data we store, the higher the price. So we can probably make a decision on that after we get some pricing on different options.
Councillor Basie.
Can we just change it to a minimum? And that leaves us, like say, we can go 15 days, we can go a month, depending on the costs, right? So.
That would be appropriate.
Council comfortable with that?
Yep.
Councillor Rodriguez.
Yes, I was going to suggest that as well, that you just put a window or something, but also not and also because you have options, you don't necessarily have monthly costs associated with the storage, video storage. So you have to take that in consideration too, and not make that your basis of your decision.
As a minimum of 5 days, and we'll remove all mention to audio, and those will be the amendments as approved.
I'm sorry. It's not a matter of removing the mention of audio, it's actually making it clear that you're not recording audio so that it doesn't become a question mark.
But we were talking about the policy at hand.
Yeah.
So that the policy at hand is we're removing the mention to the audio. Ensuring that the public is aware that we're not recording audioly is an operational thing, which we will do as we install signage, etc. So we need to remove it from the policy, and then we have to make sure that we're advertising it correctly when we're installing them.
Also comfortable with all that? Okay. Let's go to 8.4. Motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Vaisiat, the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated June 26, 2024, regarding the implementation of speed transition zones entering the hamlet of Kimlaki, be received, and that bylaw 88 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. De Silva, anything to add to that one? Any questions? Councillor Bojan?
I just have a quick question. I'm sure staff looked into it, is just looking for clarification. When you come around that bend on Egremont, you really shouldn't be going 80 around that bend anyways. So was there a thought in putting this 60 upcoming before the bend and having the 60 start closer to the bend rather than slowing down and then speeding back up, just have to slow down again? I'm just wondering if that was considered.
Okay. So we did a ball bank indicator test on that intersection probably about 6, 7 years ago. We did all of Bigger Mount Road to see what the warning sign should be posted at. And that's why you'll see the yellow sign with the suggested speed underneath, to delineate what speed someone should travel at that road. So, you're right, you'll have that transition going through there at 80 with the suggested, I think, 60, and then you'll have to drop down during the transition zone. So there may not be a hurt to extend the speed out, but given that that area is rural, it is meant to move the cars along. You also don't want necessarily to decrease the speed too far ahead, because you'll just increase the likelihood of speeders. So that's kind of a balancing act.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Any further questions? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to 8.5. We have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Vaizey. The report by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated June 27th, 2024, regarding the mobile food and refreshment vehicle proposal. All Friday received, and the proposal submitted by Jennifer Williams to provide mobile food truck services at Lambertley Park be approved, and that bylaw 89 of 2024 be taken, having been read 3 times and finally passed, the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this one? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, would it be nice to inform Anita Coffey across the way that this other mobile unit is going to be at Lakeshore? And I know it doesn't, and I know it doesn't, wrong was. I know it doesn't interfere with what she's selling. I mean, they're not the same, but wouldn't it be sort of courteous to do that? Or have you already done it by the smile on your face?
Silva.
Yeah, thank you, your worship. So the 2 vendors have spoken already.
Okay.
And my understanding is that Anita is quite excited to have somebody across the street offering a different product, obviously, but just to bring more people to the area.
Right. Okay, thanks. Yeah.
Councillor Wilbeck.
My understanding is here, I know in their, when they presented this, they talked about having a generator and stuff. And my understanding, reading further down, that they have a 50 amp plug that they'll be able to plug into.
Correct.
Will they be on meter then?
Sorry, unmetered, yes.
Pardon?
Yes.
Through your worship, that's what the $3,000 fee kind of goes to, is to pay for the hydro costs. So it's the costs are allocated to the park itself. But we have $3,000 within revenue to help offset that cost.
Any idea what hydro would cost running that 5 days a week?
We do not know.
No, probably wouldn't be.
It won't be
$3,000.
$3,000.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And they won't be running no generators. Yep.
Any other further questions? It's a good addition to our municipality.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Okay, 8.6, council. I have a motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councillor Van Claveren, that the report submitted by Paul De Silva, Director of Public Works, dated June the 27th, 2024, regarding the 2024 roadside ditching tender results be received, and that tender submitted by JLH Excavating in the amount of $49,750 plus HST be accepted. Bylaw 90 of 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times, finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. Any questions on this one? Councillor Rodriguez and Councillor Vaizey.
So I remember this. I gave you a little bit of a hard time on it. First, I would just like to say I'm completely shocked and concerned, and the difference in these tenders. It's astonishing that we're going from 49,000 to 201,000. That's a massive spread. So it kind of concerns me that what kind of quality of work we're getting. considering those differences. Secondly, I know you assured me you were gonna spend that whole $250,000 this year. And I do recall that, in that budget was some minor culvert. So it's good to see that there's the money for that. I guess my question there would be, so is that gonna come back in a separate tender since there's so much money, here? That the culverts would go out to a tender process and come back to us, so that we're aware of what's going to be spent there?
Mr. Silva?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll answer your first question first. This does happen from time to time where you have big differences in prices. JLH Excavating has worked for the town many times, happy with their performance. They were just awarded the Whiting Drain a few reports ago. They're good with their price. They're raring to go. They're excited to do the work. I think when it comes to some of this, you have big contractors with high overhead from out of town. For example, BKT is from Strathroy. They're slightly out of town. I would probably scratch that one off the list as an outlier. We budgeted about $100,000 to do this work, and that's what we thought it was going to be. $49,000 is cheap, but the contractor is confident in their price. In the report, we outlined that we'd like to do some additional work because the price came in so low. So we'd like to spend an upset limit of about $100,000. So we're looking at other areas that we can do some additional ditch work. To answer your second question regarding the culverts, yes, that's outlined in the report as well. So we have a list of poor condition culverts. We're going to put an additional tender together and put it out, and then it will come back to council for approval. So out of the $250,000 that we budgeted, we still do plan on spending the majority of it.
Thank you. And then, in that, when we discussed it at budget time regarding this, I was questioning the surveys, and it was important to know where the farmland ends and the roadside. And this 49,000 includes those surveys being done?
Mr. De Silva?
Through your worship, it does not. We hired a surveyor to do that work at a cost of about $12,000.
And that came out of this?
It came out of this budget, but it's not included in the 49,000. So it was done previously. We've already done it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I think that was it on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Lacy?
Yes, I think it's great to see. We should be spending the extra money to get the ditches in. That was a priority, is getting our roads up to snuff, and ditching was the number one thing to be done. So I agree. We should use that money up and get it done while we can. While the price is good. That's all.
Anything else? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, let's go to item 8.7. Motion by Councillor Van Claveren, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, that the report prepared by Josh Booth, Engineering Coordinator, dated July the 2nd, 2024, regarding a request for an encroachment agreement for the installation of a 3.3 meter driveway widening within a town-owned alley be received. Staff be directed to prepare an encroachment agreement and associated bylaw. I think we've also received a subsequent email relating to this as well. So I know Mr. Booth's not here. Who's going to answer? Mr. De Silva, are you answering on this one?
Yes, I can.
Any questions? Councillor Bojan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question, just from my better understanding is, are they able to take away from that frontage to go the other way for a parking spot? Or is there a minimum amount of grass that they have to have? And they, like, I'm just thinking, if we don't let them take the alleyway, are they able to then just put a parking spot on the other side instead? Or is that impact minimum acreage or?
Mr. De Silva?
Through your worship, I believe they can actually they have enough room to park in the backyard if they had to. In the front, I don't think there's enough room there just based on where the house is gonna be.
This is already under construction.
Just because when I went by it, it just, I mean, we're basically taking that alleyway out of commission because you're gonna have cars parked there. So I know they're not putting a gate up. I know that was in the staff report, but without a gate, you put two cars there. Basically, they put a gate up. So I'm just hesitant as presented, just because it's not like we've seen similar cases where there's property owners on both sides, same property owner, and it just cuts through their yard. That's a different discussion. This one is a bit different to me, and I'm not sure if I can support it as is, especially if there's room to go somewhere else on the existing property, but that's just to start the discussion.
I think that was gonna be my question too, is like if they got room in the backyard, why can't they park there? Sorry, Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, yeah, when I went by, I think they can also park in the front yard. Am I correct? Who went by there? Can they not park in the front yard? And all the other houses are parking in their front yards.
So,
Through your worship, they could very well park in the front yard.
Right.
I think that the request was just that they would have a double wide parking spot beside the property. We just looked at it from a technical perspective. We didn't promise them anything. We have some infrastructure through there. We just asked that it remain gravel just in case we ever had to dig it up to fix anything, and told them that we would bring it to council to see what their thoughts were.
Well, I think that if we allow them to do this, we've got servicing in that alleyway. We're just opening up a whole can of worms. What else is gonna do it? We haven't allowed this anywhere else to have driveways and alleyways that I know of. And if they can park in the backyard, they can use that gravel driveway and get back there. It's not like they're stymied.
Councilor Wobet.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same way. They're gonna build a new place here and, they own the property now. They're wanting another 10 feet or so off of, an easement right away or lane along there. I just think they should concentrate on their own piece of property. Those right of ways are for all the people along there, not just one house. So they've got 4 meters of driveway, which is pretty wide driveway, actually. I think it's as wide as the one I owned. And, I just don't really agree with it, but we'll see what the council says.
Councilor Rodriguez, then Councilor Vacy.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with the rest of council. This is different. I mean, the last alleyway that came in front of us was running through the middle of somebody's backyard and they couldn't contain their animals. So I mean, much different than encroaching from extending their property. And as the one neighbor noted, it is widely used for children and people, and then to have that impeding on that could create a safety issue, especially if it's not being gated off or shut off. So I have concerns with that. And whether you get rid of all these alleyways and then give them to these adjacent property owners, or we keep them intact because they have a purpose. And this one clearly is being used according to the neighbors. So I think for safety wise, for sure, that we shouldn't be allowing.
Councilor Vacy.
Yes, I'm just kind of questioning the design of a duplex that only has one lane. How did that get through the system when we know there's going to be at least 2 cars there, probably 3 or 4, and nowhere to park them?
Very good question.
I thought so.
I'll take first crack. I'll take first crack at that. And
Okay, Mr. Savansky.
Ms. Nada can correct me if I'm incorrect. So under planning and building, they're required to have 1 parking spot each. They provide for each unit. They have 2 units. They've actually provided 1.5 each, so there's parking for 3. Can't speak for the builder, but what it appears that they did not contemplate how to move those 3 cars in and out. They stacked them, and when you stack cars, as those with multiple vehicles in a single laneway will know, you always have to move cars to get cars out. So I believe that was probably a point found out after the fact, after they start constructing, and hence why they contacted Public Works. So as it sits, although maybe not practical, it does meet building regulations.
So you're gonna go to your neighbor and ask them to move their car every time you.
As it sits, that looks how it would occur.
Absolutely no sense. All right.
It's not a,
If I can, we are looking at the zoning bylaw currently. As part of our review, parking has been and driveways have one thing that has been identified, but tandem parking is allowed, stacked parking. It's done in many municipalities. It's usually just the agreement between the tenants, and yes, it does get messy, but a lot of things get messy when you get tenants on properties, not just parking, but it is approvable under your current zoning bylaw.
anything further? Okay. All those in favor of this motion? Opposed? It is defeated.
Imagine planning and public works staff will work with the property owner to find a reasonable solution to rectify their challenges.
Okay. Okay, council, let's go to 9.1. Motion by Councillor Bojan, seconded by Councillor Rodriguez, that the collection bylaw 91 of 2024 for the Montgomery drain be approved, taken as read 3 times, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly, and that a pro rata levy be imposed on the ratepayers according to the attached schedule to be collected in the manner outlined within the bylaw. Any questions on that? Call for the vote. All those in favor? Carried. Okay, 9.2. I have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Vacy. The collection bylaw 95 of 2024 for the DeFreeze Delmage drain be approved, taken, read 3 times, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. The pro rata levy be imposed on the ratepayers according to the attached schedule, which will be collected in the manner outlined within the bylaw. Questions on this one? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, correspondence. Let's go to item 10.1. I have a motion by Councillor Rodriguez, seconded by Councillor Vacy, that the letter dated July the 4th, 2024 from Randy Damon regarding Augusta Street be received, and the council directs staff to maintain the town's previous established process regarding improving unopened and unassumed road allowances as outlined in the staff report RS 22-138. Also, you've had a chance to review that report as well as the letter that came from Mr. Damon. Any questions, council? Councilor Rodriguez?
Thank you. Yes, I have a few questions.
Okay.
So based on Mr. Damon's submissions and reading the staff reports, I'm thoroughly standstill. It appears by what Mr. Damon has submitted is that this is a municipally owned road. And I go back to my very first council meeting. We were discussing an unimproved road. That was in the Plympton Street, I think you said. Is that correct? South Plympton? South Plympton Street, where previous council had agreed to set aside some money for improving unimproved roads. And then we kind of kiboshed that. So I feel like this would fall under that. I'm
Just nodding my head and listening.
So in your motion, you're stating that it's an unapproved, or sorry, unassumed or unopened, correct? Is how you're looking at it. The history that Mr. Damon has provided would suggest otherwise, and that's where I'm at a standstill.
Through the mayor, comment?
Yes.
So there is a big difference in the sense that South Plimpton is opened. It's open to public traveling, where the Augusta Street is not an open road allowance. Property owners who are adjacent to or can use it, but it's not an open road. And therefore, according to our lawyers in multiple correspondence over the last 15 years, they are of the opinion that because it's unopened, unassumed, that we do not have the responsibility to update it to service the surrounding owners. As per any other development or any private development which has been assumed by the town of Plympton-Wyoming, it has been the responsibility of the adjacent property owners to improve that roadway, which was done in Blue Point, Bird Lanes, and a number of other former cottage areas where they actually paid through local improvement acts to improve the roadways. They paid through the Drainage Act to provide drainage to the roadways prior to the municipality assuming those roadways. So that is the policy that numerous motions of council has put into place, and to direct otherwise would require a reconsideration motion, as the motion has been placed on the floor numerous times in the past and endorsed by council.
If I may, I haven't been on previous council, so please be patient with me. And I don't disrespect those. I just am seeing it for what I'm seeing it at this point. When you're talking about Blue Point Drive, for example, that was a private road to the subdivision. And it's different because those are private roads that were built within a subdivision development. So I get the difference between, and we still have lots of those private roads. This is being contested as a municipally owned road that just hasn't been maintained. And it being stated that in history, I mean, it's been around to the history since the 1800s, originally mapped by the province and then taken over by the municipality when council was formed. And it was being used and a through road until some sort of culvert or bridge was removed. I'm stating that correctly. So at what point did that stop being an open road, if that's the case? And I guess that's where I'm looking for clarification, right?
I can provide the legal opinion that was provided to us previously, but after staff reviewing the information provided by Mr. Damon, having our lawyers provide it, it was determined that the town does not bear the responsibility to improve that road. It is a closed road. And the town is not required to improve it to provide those property owners access. The town's standpoint is valid and legal, that property owners who want to gain access to undeveloped lands must pay their share to improve those roads, not the current tax base. If they want to develop those lands, it's the developer's responsibility. The same as in other areas where the roads have been unassumed, such as in Gallimere or numerous other subdivisions. Ruling from previous councils that those property owners must go through the Drainage Act and the Local Improvement Act, improve those roads to a current standard, municipality formally taking them over and providing all maintenance services.
Yes, and I appreciate what you're saying, and you're giving reference to private roads versus municipal roads. And I think that's what the crux of this argument is this a private road like Gallimere or Blue Point previously was? Whereas this gentleman is contending that it's not the case.
It's a closed road.
And again, I don't know what closed road means, so sorry.
To public use. People who are adjacent to it may use it to access their properties, but it's closed to public use. And again, as per the previous staff report, this is all information that has been previously presented. And if we're going to get into the depths of the information that's previously presented, a reconsideration motion is required.
Another council with a question.
Well, I just feel,
I can come back to you.
I just feel like, and I don't mean to drag up stuff that's already been decided on, so I'm not trying to disrespect the previous processes. I'm seeing evidence, supposed evidence being presented that this road was a used road, it was an open road. I'm trying to understand when it became a closed road.
It's unclear when it became a closed road, but our previous lawyers reviewed the evidence and all came to the same conclusion that it's a closed road. The town bears no responsibility to obtain it, maintain it for the access to the property owners. That is their responsibility. If they want it to be a municipal road and the municipality to assume it, it is their responsibility through the Local Improvement Act and the Drainage Act to pay for those improvements prior to the town assuming it.
Mr. Boson?
Yeah, and just for clarity's sake, I know in the staff report it talks about in 1998, there was 2 properties on that road who were in a similar situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, but because it was a unassumed closed road, they had to pay for that road to be extended, correct?
That was the understanding I was provided, yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Van Claveren?
Mr. Mayor, Adam, would you say that that stretch of unopened and unassumed road kind of is similar to an alleyway here in the village? So it's not a public thoroughfare, but it could be used by the property owners adjacent to it.
Alleys and road allowances are very similar legally. They're intended to provide public access to properties. So if a alleyway was deemed to be closed by council, it would fall under the same nature as what you would be here today, where the municipality would be divesting themselves from any future maintenance or upgrading of that alleyway. However, if it was to remain in the public realm due to extenuating circumstances, it would be in a similar situation as this. It would be usable to the adjacent property owners, but it would not necessarily be maintained and operated.
Maybe one little follow-up. The bridge that was removed many years ago. Can you speak to that?
Other than the details in my report, I
Right.
can't speak to it any further, no.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Wovett?
I think this is a very interesting topic. We have quite a few roads in this municipality that have not been upgraded or improved. I know there's one right behind me, Point View, for example. Now that road is a town-owned road. It's just an unimproved road. And now I know for a fact they've had to put their own gravel on it. I know for a fact they've had to pay for the grader to come in once a year and grade it. I think this is kind of what we're talking about, this very similar thing to Augusta.
Mr. Savansky?
Yes and no. So there's 2 very key differences we want to keep in mind. You mentioned unimproved road. Unimproved road just references the state of the road. It could be a clay road, a dirt road, gravel, etc. But unimproved just means it's a very basic roadway. We have numerous roads in the town of Plympton-Wyoming, which are unimproved, but they're open road allowances, which we provide seasonal maintenance and seasonal construction efforts to. Where this road, along with other numerous roads which are closed or unassumed, are what we refer to as semi-private. They're in the ownership of the town of Plympton-Wyoming, but the developers, or now the existing property owners, never met the conditions of assumption for the road. So those conditions to meet those assumptions again are a road standard up to today's standards, drainage, etc. And until those adjacent property owners meet those conditions, or the former developer, property owners, if the developer is no longer present, the towns do not typically assume those roads until they're brought up to those standards.
We've had roads in my area, Hillcrest Road, George Street, for example. Now, that road, my understanding, and I don't know all the history of it, but they wanted that road fixed up. I believe they it was an open road, had a bridge, the culverts in there.
So how the bridge was taken out in the past is moot to this point. To put a new bridge in, you would have to go through the Drainage Act.
But the other thing with that piece of property, going back a few years ago, there was a developer also wanted to go back in there and develop some of them lots. I forget how many lots, but there's quite a few back in there. So were they facing exactly the same situation as we're facing here tonight, the question we're facing?
Yes,
Who
sir.
fixes that road up?
Yes, sir.
Would we have addressed them at the time?
Not directly, but staff, it reiterated the motioned standpoint of council to them that any improvements to the road would be their responsibility.
Yeah, I don't know where to go from here because it's quite complicated and personally, I have no issue opening the floor back up to this type of a discussion. If people have new information, I like to let everybody talk and speak for themselves, but it's up to the council what they want to do.
Counselor, we have, according by our procedure bylaw, we aren't able to do that, but you are asking the questions the same as all the other counselors are, so that's where we're getting our information out to that. Counselor Rodriguez, yes?
Thank you. So listening to this information. So when I look at Blue Point Drive and Sunset Acres, as an example, that road, as it sits, would not be up to, even though the municipality owns it, it is not up to the standards of the municipality. So you're suggesting that those people in Sunset Acres would have to pay for that road to come up to a certain level of service?
Sunset Acres,
Yeah, Blue Point Drive.
those old roads were improved previously and assumed.
So assume, okay, so what is the standard then?
Depends, there's semi-urban standards and there's full urban standards. The Blue Point community chose and the Bird Lanes chose to bring it up to a full urban standard, which is curb and gutters. But in the past, this municipality historically has accepted a semi-urban standard, which could be anything from shallow roadside ditches and culverts along the roadway and at a paved surface to a just individual catch basins in each front yard to catch the road water. So there is different levels of standard, and the property owners would take part in that discussion, as they did in King Street and a number of other subdivisions. There's a minimum standard. The minimum standard to be assumed is the semi-urban construction standard, but they can go higher if they choose. So,
Okay, well,
Counselor
I
Basin?
didn't quite,
Sorry.
sorry. I just feel a little bit more confused, sorry. And I agree with Mr. Bobet. I think if there's new information here or something else needs to be learned to make it very clear so that not being regurgitated. I would agree with allowing for reconsideration. I would support that.
Counselor Basin?
Well, I look at it like, the clay road that we closed. It's a public road. We put a gate on the end so the farmers could use it to get to their fields, but nobody else. We didn't, we're not putting any money into it. They're wrecking it by driving the four-wheel drives down the road and everything else. So we closed the road. This road we've never had open. It's been going on for 15, 20 years. Nothing's changed. And yet we're gonna go through it again, spend more staff time and money. We just went through this 2 years ago before you guys come on, and nothing's changed. Like, I don't see you wasting any time on this. We know what our stance is. Why open up again to get to the same conclusion that we're not gonna pay to put a road in if somebody wants to build a house? We don't build roads for anybody else to build a house on. Right? We don't put roads in and then hope a subdivision is gonna be made. They put the money into it, they pay for it. I don't see why we'd ever change that. That's all I have to say about that.
Counselor Bojan, anything from you?
I have nothing further, thank you.
Because this is a procedure thing, and we've gone through this twice. I'm not prepared to deviate from that. But Mr. Damon has some information. I'd like him to share it with staff so they can bring it back to us. You're not taking the floor tonight, Mr. Damon. If you have good information that you'd like to share with the staff, they can get it back to us and then it can be discussed.
I don't understand how council can make decisions without all the information.
That's why you can supply that information to our staff and they will share it with us.
It's 5 minutes for me to present that deciding factor here that we can clear this all up within 5 minutes here and be done. Okay, well then I'm gonna move, I'm not going to talk to staff. I will move on to a higher power here that makes the decisions.
Your call.
May not bode well for the council. I'd rather resolve this with councilors that I know. Than resolve this at the province. Up to you guys, not up to me.
So any further questions on this? Okay, call for the vote. All those in favor? Can we reread it? Moved by Councilor Rodriguez, seconded by Councilor Bays. The letter dated July the 4th, 2024 from Randy Damon regarding Augusta Street be received and the council direct staff to maintain the town's previously established process regarding improving unopened and unassumed road allowances outlined in staff report SR 22-138. Councilor Rodriguez.
So I'd like to support it, but you put in the caveat that if something new that could be brought forward, that could be.
You could bring it forward to.
Right, so
Right now, this is accepting the motion as what Mr. Sabansky has put in. But I have given him the opportunity. Yes, Mr. Sabansky.
If the town of Plympton-Wyoming is provided with legal information that our legal counsel reviews and determines changes the circumstances of the previous motion, it is no longer a reconsideration motion. That new legal information would then be brought to council for further consideration.
it would be brought as new.
New information.
Not regurgitated.
Correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
That is Mr. Damon's opportunity then to bring it forward.
Okay, the new information, yes,
This is dealing with this motion that we have right now.
okay.
Everybody clear on that?
Yeah.
Counselor, you ready to vote? All in favor? Okay, council, let's go to item number 11. Correspondence, recommended reading and routine approval. A motion by Councilor Wolvette, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the correspondence items A to M related to recommended reading and routine approval and information items be noted as received by the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly. Council, that is A to M. On my left, Councilor Wolvette, anything?
No, sir.
Councilor Van Claveren?
Nothing for me, sir.
Deputy?
Yeah, I'm just looking up to see what number it is. It's the one on about the severance application in Enniskillen.
Jay?
J and K,
J and K, it's and the zoning, right?
yes, J and K.
Could we ask for the decision, a copy of the decision, please?
Sure. Do you want me just to pull that out and then ask for the decision? Is everybody okay with that?
Sure.
Well, I'll get that ready. Councilor Rodriguez, anything for you?
Yes, surprise, Bob. So L and M, so L deals with this bioresin for road resurfacing, and resourcing using natural and agricultural resources versus petrochemical resources to produce a more efficient, carbon-friendly, and expensive approach to road surfacing. It's also used in other areas as a plastic alternative. It is not for us to look at using it. It is to support the fact that they are using it here as a pilot project. Because it would be interesting to follow that and see how that plays out, you know, because somewhere down the road, it might be a nice alternative here. So that was what it was for. And then M referred to the aftermarket lithium batteries. Many are imported, not ULC certified, and no regulations to protect against their use. This letter recommends municipalities implement educational programs for the public on the dangers of these batteries and how to use them safely as per the recommendations of the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. So that particular one, I liked, I don't know how you do it, but if. Thank you. No, but I want it to go to actually the fire committee on our next agenda to address it as well.
I think we can just refer that to, and I think the chief has already talked about the batteries. That, but I think we could refer that as, pull it and refer it on.
Yeah,
Back to fire. Counselor Willett, you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
he has talked about it, you're right, but I just don't know if there was any formal education thing that he's gonna be bringing to us in regards to
Thought
that.
there might be, but I could.
Is there?
Okay, no.
Well, it can't hurt.
No.
All the sometimers going on, I guess.
Okay. Anything else,
No,
Counselor?
thank you.
Counselor Vacy?
Nothing, your worship, I was just doing the lithium battery.
Counselor Bojan?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Okay, wait till the clerk, gets the paperwork done.
We support additional correspondence.
Yes, well, no, I think we wanted to pull M out and refer it to the fire department. Sorry, the fire executive.
I don't think we need to change the motion. We can just make sure at a staff level that gets to the
gets
committee.
voted on. Okay. Are you okay with that, Counselor Rodriguez?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, a motion by Counselor Willett, seconded by Counselor Van Claveren, that correspondence items A to M relating to recommended reading and routine approval and information items be noted as received for the Plympton-Wyoming Council and filed accordingly, save and except for items J and K. All those in favor? Carried. And Deputy Mayor, you'll move that one of yours.
Sure.
And Councilor Van Claveren, second it.
Yes, thank you.
A motion by Deputy Mayor McEwen, seconded by Councilor Van Claveren, that the staff request from Enniskillen and Township copies of the planning applications as identified in correspondence items J and K. All those in favor? Great. Okay, council, let's go to item 12, new business. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you. Okay. I have a question, a few things. I have a question on whether we belong to, it might have been done through previous council. Whether we belong to this PCP program, which is the, and this is coming from a member of the public who is inquiring, Partners for Climate Protection Program through the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Are you aware?
Yes.
To the best of my knowledge, the town is not a part of that program.
Okay, thank you. Not that. Going back to our board meeting with the St. Clair Conservation Authority, in previous council meeting, I had mentioned on the agenda was the grants that were approved, projects for shoreline restoration or repair that were approved for the 2024-2026 years. Our CAO was not present during that last meeting because I wanted to ask you, because you had mentioned that you were looking at working with the St. Clair Conservation Authority to try and seek some funding. So I did get clarification on how that works from in that meeting. And they stated that you have to enter into a maintenance agreement with them in order to become part of this funding model, where they would, they get the grant money for 50% of any work. And then the municipality provides the other 50%. And unfortunately, for some reason this year, they've always done it in 1 year increments, but this year they decided to go to a 2 year. So now it'll be 2026 before they look at that new funding. But it does buy you time to look at further, if they would, if everybody or staff to look further into what this maintenance program is all about. And I was quite confused because I said to them, I said, so you owned these Highland Glen and McEwen Park? Where was the funding? But then you gave it to us because it wasn't receiving funding. Now you want us to enter into a maintenance agreement? It's very confusing. Right.
You're confused.
Yes, and I did have discussions with the manager responsible for that program at the St. Clair Conservation Authority during my previous role. And he did note that there would likely be some ability to specifically look at McEwen and or Highland Glen in the future. There's a lot of background work that has to be done first before you can even apply to get that funding. And he did said that he would be willing to sit down with us to talk about other properties to see if they are suitable to be included in the program. Probably be having our current Director of Public Works coordinate with the CRA, St. Clair Regional Conservation Authority on that moving forward, but it is on our mind. We just don't have everything in order to be applying for those grants necessarily.
Yes, and I just wanted you to be aware that you do have to enter into this maintenance program in order to qualify. And I don't know what that consists of. The other topic was the boat ramp. I have received feedback from people as well on the boat ramp. There are a lot of people who are a little bit frustrated because they actually want to pay, but a lot of people don't necessarily plan ahead. Excursions, you know, they might be in the area, the weather might be cooperating, you can't necessarily plan all the time. And so when you get there, even though there's signage directing you to do the online thing, quite often there's not good cell reception to be able to do that. There was a suggestion made because people are quite happy to pay the fee from anybody I've spoke to. We're just having difficulty doing it. And there was a suggestion made about putting in a lockbox where you can just throw cash in it. And I think you'll find there's a very good honor system out there if they had the capability of doing it. Unfortunately, it doesn't give them a tag. So I get it. There's some logistics involved there, but
Actually, we could put a donation box out there, but they'd still need a tag because the bylaw requires.
I know, and I think it's maybe a starting point to maybe some other suggestion where, you know, could dispense a tag or something.
And we've gone through that topic and we chose the current route utilizing the recreation software and physical permits from the municipal office as a trial program. We did discuss those other options. Likely the only other option that would work in cell reception down there would to be go back to look at a display description program with the tower to make sure they have cell service. That would be the only way to ensure that people can buy tags at the ramp. Otherwise, you're going to be dealing with an imperfect system as we are today. Again, when we first proposed, the council was worried about the uptake and the cost of the pay and display system. That's why we went with the using what we have to the best of our abilities. But as this is our first full year with full tags. If a year or two down the road, we see these complaints continuing and we feel that we've made enough revenue or there's enough potential revenue to justify the cost of re-looking at a pay and display system, that is always at the first, I would suggest Parks and Recreation's discretion and then the council's discretion.
Yeah, well, I'm just letting you know, there's a lot of people who do actually want to do the right thing and just are finding it frustrating. And you get a lot of elderly people too, who aren't necessarily technology friendly as well, and. You know, and
Our season passes are very well priced.
you both looked at each other and I'm like. Yeah, so anyway, that's
And again, for those who are launching their boats over, I think between 10 and 20 times in a year, a season pass is, you will break even on, and then you don't have to at all worry about having anything ready. You're hanging it in your tow vehicle and it's done. But unless council directs otherwise, the imperfect system which we have currently is working, and once council or the public determine that it no longer works, we can revisit the pay and display system that we originally looked at.
and I really just wanted to put it out there because I don't want Counselor Basie to think people are just not doing it. You know, there are people that really, and there are other reasons why maybe some things aren't happening.
Deputy? You're next. After the.
I thought you were calling me deputy.
I've been replaced.
Anyway. No much time, it's in your hands.
Anyway, no, new business, there was a truck rodeo, wasn't there? And two of our staff were in it and they actually placed Greg, do you know Greg Atkinson? He got 3rd out of 21. And Ed, is it Babcock, his last name? He's 7th out of 21. So the two guys, at least, you know how to drive a truck that we got hired. So that's great. There we go.
Thank you, Deputy. Councilor Basie?
Yes, funny the boat ramp comes up, because our crack staff handed me our crack staff. Taken in yes, they're right on. It was
really did not sound good. So
our great staff. So far, we've taken in $4,800 on the boat ramp, which means between May 24 and now we took in $2,600. Which at that rate, if we were to dredge it this year, it would take 4 years to pay that off. So yes, people are paying for it, but not enough.
Summer's not over yet.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Anything else, Councilor Basie? Okay. Councilor Van Claveren?
Nothing from me, sir.
Okay, Councilor Wobet?
Just a couple of things. You know that we just purchased the plaza at Reese's Corners. But every time I drive by there, I get some really good thoughts.
No, you can't build your house there.
One of those thoughts are, we got an extremely rare 18 acres of property at Reese's Corners. I think what we need there is a professional plan and how we're gonna lay out any kind of a site plan and what we would propose to even put on that property in the future. I know we've had thoughts, but just to lay it out, we don't build something in the middle of it and then the rest of it's unusable. And I'm absolutely positive staff's already thinking that way. I think that's very important that we get it laid out properly for future use. The other thing I'd like to see there, since we've bought the place, I think, I don't know how we can do it, but we can do it one on one. I'd like to have a look through some of those empty buildings and just look at the condition, because I think with a little bit of paint and stuff, not too much, because people normally go in to these places and redesign them themselves, but perk them up a little bit, like, I drove around the back of it, it just looks like an old barnyard back there, and so, maybe painting the doors, just perking it up. I'd like to have a look inside and, see what we purchased, what we agreed to here. Get more advertising and try to get these stores rented out. That's my new business.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor.
Don't know if Mr. Vasey has something to add to that. That's his hand went up fairly fast.
I'd like to see a sign up there that owned by the town of Wyoming, we're open for business, something like that with a number to get a hold of the town hall, like build a suit or whatever they put up usually. Something to let them know that we want them.
Mr. Bansky?
Your worship. So sign first. That is already on the works.
That says Plympton, Wyoming.
We are replacing the current for lease sign with one with our crest on it. For lease and then our phone number. So that is currently underway. Plans, yes. We're pretty premature here. We do know we want to create economic development, and we do know we want to find ways to increase our services to the community. Whatever that turns out to be, it will be well planned out. We do not want to move forward in a hasty fashion. We want to make sure whatever improvements are made are done so in such a light that we're not limiting our future potential of the property. And as far as a council tour, there has been a number of councillors who've suggested the same thing outside of a council meeting. And I think it would be advantageous to arrange a quick tour of the facility for council in the near future.
Raising.
I just thought of something. Now that we own that, should we get a letter from the Lions Club asking for permission to have their recycling box there?
We are currently in the process of updating all utility accounts, all contracts, etc. So yes, we should probably contact the local Lions and have a discussion in that regard. Yes.
Something that I'm pretty sure we did it for the previous owner.
Maybe that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Councillor Bojan.
I did have one thing. It was, I think we'll save it for the next meeting. So I think we might have a delegation about it, but just so council's aware, with the turning lane being added to Fleming, it's kind of spurred conversation in that subdivision about illumination at that intersection. To add a street light to the hydro pole at that intersection. Just to give council a heads up, I think we're gonna focus on that at the next meeting. So I think there might be a delegation from some folks in that subdivision. And then the other one was just going back to the boat ramp. I'm assuming those numbers don't include enforcement. Was there enforcement on the long weekend? And the only reason I asked is because in addition to people wanting to pay, I've also heard people who say I have paid, and I see people parked with trailers with no tag or whatnot. So was there enforcement over the long
I
weekend?
think Ms. Noddick can answer that.
For you, there was enforcement over the weekend. We don't sit down there the whole time. There's 3 of us. We pop down now and then and go have a look. And there are people that have expressed us difficulty in paying, and if they're gonna do the right thing, then they should, when they get home, they should be paying for it if they can't access it. We haven't issued any tickets yet. We have been trying to do in good faith educating anyone that we've approached or talked to. Even though they're not displaying, we do have access to the system. We can look up to see if they've bought one. But there hasn't been any need for, we see people down there trying to buy them and they can't buy them. We know there's a problem. But then we've also had people purchase, go down to go get in line, and there's been over an hour wait to get on the boat ramp. So then they leave. So, and then I got asked, can I use it tomorrow? Sure, if you didn't launch today, go use it tomorrow. Like we're trying to be pretty fair too. We want people to use it. We want it to drum up the business, but it is pretty limited down there. One day people were complaining that everyone that was using the park was parked there and there was no parking for the trailers. So it's hard, right? But we were down there, and we're down there now daily, like through the week more often. It's in our travels now since July 1.
Thank you.
During the day as well.
Thank you.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Basie.
Yeah.
Okay. If nothing else under new business, clerk, we have nothing under closed session this evening. Nothing. Okay, go to item 14, moved by Councillor Bojan, second by Councillor Basie, that bylaw 94. 2024 being a bylaw to confirm all resolutions at the council meeting of July the 10th, 2024 be taken as having been read 3 times. Finally passed, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the said bylaw accordingly. All those in favor? Carried. Before we adjourn, I want to thank our member of the press for being with us for the whole evening. Thank you, Blake, for joining with us over at the Legion ahead of time. Appreciate that. Okay, motion by Councillor Van Claveren, second by Councillor Wolvette, that the regular council meeting be adjourned until the next regular meeting be held on Wednesday, July the 31st, 2024, commencing at 5 p.m. All those in favor? Carried. This meeting is adjourned.